Welcome back to episode 41 of the Block Runner podcast. I'm your host, William, always here with your co-host, Iman.
What's going on, fellas?
And today we bring you the co-founders of Metalith, which is an advanced provider of research and tools for non-fungible token markets, with the first one being the Decentraland token. Welcome, Joel and Mark, to the podcast. Thank you for being here, guys.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great, man. So we first heard about you guys with this press release that you guys recently received funding. And so do you guys want to talk about a little bit about what Metalith is and like how you view it into the bigger space in the non-fungible token area?
Yeah, sure. So we actually originally started with something quite different that was also Decentraland related. But back then we had a different name, which was VR Law. And we focused on the renting out of parcels.
Okay.
Because I think Joël and I, both of us got into Decentraland in 2017, around the time that they did the ICO, right? And one of the things we very quickly, because we were both really into it, because it was this idea of having like a virtual world where all the rules, the laws, and most importantly, maybe the economic laws are decentralized, that really attracted us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were both really into it. And one of the first things we identified was that people would want to rent out land to take advantage of something like passive income,
Sure.
Providing opportunities to other people looking to rent instead of buy and stuff like that. And we saw a decent amount of demand in the Discord as well, the Decentraland Discord. Mostly people saying, when can I rent land? This question has been going around for like 1 or 2 years, ever since launch, basically, right? Ever since land was tokenized. And so Joël and I, or Mark is the English name, we both kind of like jumped on it and started thinking about, what is really needed out there, what doesn't exist. We have this virtual world, we have this tokenized property, but this layer that you kind of need to enter into business agreements and make an economy work isn't there. There's no protocol for it or anything.
Sure.
So initially, we actually released an alpha back then, which was just giving people an overview of the parcels they had, a mock-up of entering into a rental agreement where you pay like a certain amount of mana or ether every month or every week. We didn't quite know what the period would be for renting out rent. Could be much faster, much higher turnover than for normal real world property. And then we decided at some point that this was something that we wanted to do full time. And we started searching for funding and stuff. And one of the like really logical people to speak to in, at the crossroads of virtual reality, NFTs, blockchain, that kind of stuff, were, the digital currency group were also very active in Decentraland, right?
Sure.
So we got to talk to them and we did a bunch of, iterations on, what would, provide a good basis to start a startup with. And whatnot. And so we shifted away from this renting of land ultimately to a kind of like generalized land management portal that would help you with, all aspects of owning and using land. And one of the first things they came up with on both sides actually, but they were separate and we just came together on it at some point, is that there should probably be something like an index.
Mm-hmm.
Because the big problem with NFTs, any project that you think of that has NFTs is that it's not easy to summarize from an investment perspective the overall performance of the non-fungible token, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one person that we spoke to a lot was Matty, TCL blogger, and he really gave us a lot of information, on how he looked at this, how he approached it. And one of the things he said was that when he wanted to look at the state of the market, he would look at the cheapest parcels with particular characteristics, like let's say a 2-land estate, what is the cheapest I can find, then look at it across time and see how that evolves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about taking like this lowest price is that it's an absolute value and it doesn't summarize the overall performance of the market, right? It could be that parcels behave very differently from estates, small estates from big estates, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
So the logical solution is to aggregate the performance of all these assets over time, and then summarize, how the market behaves overall between these time periods. And so we started researching on how we could do this for NFTs, which are kind of, special assets. They're non-fungible. They don't have order books, anything like this. It's quite different from like an S&P 500 financial index. And then we found that index approaches for the housing market could be an option. So the Case-Shiller index that you have in America, right? It aggregates all these houses, all these prices of houses over time as they evolve. And then it summarizes their overall performance into one index, one figure, right?
Sure.
And that sounded quite similar because if you think about it, real world houses are non-fungible, right? If you just look at the location of a house, there's no way you're going to have the exact same location, exact same house in the exact same location. So you have all these things that are non-fungible that you need to aggregate over. It's the very same principle with whatever we see here on the blockchain, land or CryptoKitties or gods unchained or anything like this, right? So we went down that road, and we're currently working on the more advanced models that require a little more work in terms of statistics and stuff. But we already have these indexes live that we launched with the press release, and those take the median, which is a very simple approach. But even the median is quite a popular tool with many governments, other institutions around the world that make these indexes. So we thought it would be a good place to start. And yeah, we're hoping to take it much further, go more in depth on what's happening in Decentraland, but also extend to other projects, looking at other virtual world things like CryptoVoxels, Somnium Space, Sandbox, recently launched. These are all super interesting.
Absolutely.
Also because what is interesting about these NFTs in virtual worlds is that they have, apart from, let's say, general characteristics, they also have this spatial dependence, these coordinates, right?
Yeah.
And these coordinates, they actually cause these spatial dependencies that you also find in the data across prices, across locations. And that actually helps us with making these statistical models more solid.
Yeah, so you're saying like the more centralized a parcel is, the more expensive it could potentially be in a purchase.
Yeah, so that's kind of like macro behavior, right? So you could say, like, if you look at the center of Decentraland, we divided it into zones, actually, right? One of the things we divided into zones. And so if you take that middle area, that middle square, which is zone 5, forest, which has traditionally been the hottest area, right? That's why I think the most expensive parcel ever was sold on coordinates 22 something, right? If you look at the parcels there,
the surrounding areas are also pretty much expensive too.
Yeah, so you get these like very local behaviors where if one expensive parcel sold, then it's very likely that price will influence the NFTs around it, the rest of the land, right? And that's a very interesting relationship that you only find with these NFTs that use coordinates, because they are explicitly related to each other because of that locational stuff, which makes them different from, for example, CryptoKitties or Gods Unchained. They're related in terms of theme, right, and in terms of purpose, but they're not related in terms of location.
Right.
And that's actually an important data point for us in making these statistical models. So
for CryptoKitties, just a quick question for CryptoKitties, wouldn't, like, just like in Decentraland, the more centralized that you are, it tends to be more expensive? Do you think in CryptoKitties, the more older the CryptoKitty is, the more expensive it is? Like the closer it is to the Genesis CryptoKitty?
Yeah, for sure. I was reading the Nifty report. There was recently, I think the Twitter account is called the Nifty Guy or Nifty Collector. I think he came out with a report recently, and he did a summary of the CryptoKitties market. And yeah, you have these early generations of CryptoKitties that are a lot more valuable because they're the very roots of the entire CryptoKitties tree, you could say.
Yeah. Because they literally propagate like biological creatures, right? You have to crossbreed them or something like that in order to create new ones.
Yeah, so there's this like secret algo, right, that combines these genes, and then some new stuff comes out, and no one knows what the official algo is, although apparently some of them have figured it out. But that's a completely separate dynamic that you find with CryptoKitties. But that's also, if I would look at it like from a bird's eye view, would be much harder to do statistically than with land.
Oh, yeah.
Simply because the relationships between the NFTs are better coded and easier to interpret than with CryptoKitties.
Yeah. Hey, Joel, real quick, we can hear your microphone rubbing on your shirt. Can you just...
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. There we go. That sounds better. No, you're good. So yeah, we were. That's funny that you mentioned Maddie from DCL Blogger. That's kind of how we got into Decentraland as well. I mean, we discovered it and we were looking into it, and at the time, it wasn't available to like walk around in the space, and so we didn't know like what Decentraland was really, because all we could tell was like from a bunch of like text, right? Just reading about it.
Yeah. No, we stumbled upon it just on the podcast. Actually, just looking it up.
Yeah,
and it's one of those projects that as soon as you look into it, you get hooked.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
it's something so new. The whole space. I didn't know any of this whole virtual reality land asset.
Yeah,
existed. I don't know how I missed it, but
we did a bunch of research before getting into the details of Decentraland, and so one of the like reference projects that we looked at, right, like what happened in history before Decentraland. There's no way you can get about Second Life. Right?
Yeah,
right.
And so when I was like, when Second Life was like hot in 2008, 2009, I was 18, 19 years old. I honestly had heard of it, but I wasn't like, I never really got into it, right? And there seems to be like a whole actual generation of people that were into Second Life. And so I don't remember much of it, honestly, but it's crazy how big it was back then. Because I was going through the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
The website that archives all this stuff. And so there was a lot of stuff made for Second Life that isn't available nowadays, but you can find it via the machine. And so, embassies were opening up. Official embassies were opening up in Second Life. And Reuters, the news guys, had like an official Reuters office in Decentraland where they were reporting from, like virtually to other avatars and stuff. And I think back then it was so revolutionary to have this. I think it was probably marketed very well as well. But it's so, if you look at these like foundations, right, that Decentraland continues to build on, it's a very rich history.
Yeah.
Very rich. And that's really also, I think, one of the things that really inspired us to go forward with Decentraland. It's interesting. One of the other things that happened in Second Life is that certain people had their land taken away from them.
Right.
There were complications with paying taxes in Europe. They had to, on the European servers, they had to start charging tax because of, local laws and stuff. People didn't want to do it. People didn't want to go along with it. They struggled. Other people did probably politically incorrect things or anything, and they ended up in court with the people behind Second Life and had their assets taken away from them.
Wow.
Now, I in no way probably agree with what those people did, but I do disagree with having your land taken away from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like property rights are really basic. So to see something like Decentraland where the property rights are like baked in,
inherent,
the system, right, and can never really be changed. That's really inspiring. And if you look at how society is becoming more digital overall, maybe we're at the right point in history where something like Decentraland could work. So that was
we think with blockchain technology, I mean, it lends itself to gaming, especially gaming something like Decentraland. Do you think Second Life played a part into your guys' decision to starting with Decentraland as your first NFT on Metalith?
We were not super. Mark, how much did you know about Second Life when we got into Decentraland?
Not really. Not because later when they try to imagine the businesses that people can build on Decentraland, I started to look at the Reuters articles that Joe shared with me, and from there I know a little bit more and more about Second Life. So for me, I know Decentraland before.
Yeah.
So have you guys have any experience with like MMO type games or anything like that in your past? Games
World of Warcraft,
EverQuest Online. Those are similar environments, I guess you would call them.
I would say so.
Just escape environments from reality, that are incredibly addictive.
I was into World of Warcraft briefly, but after that I've always been more of an FPS or Warcraft, like traditional Warcraft, like the strategy game.
Yeah, of course. But I see a lot of similarities, I guess, in World of Warcraft, people, including myself, spent countless hours towards acquiring, I would call them in-game assets, I guess, the gear that you acquire through the amount of hours that you invest in the game.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. The gaming is really important, even for me, both on a personal and a professional basis. The gaming aspect is really, really important. I was reading one of Andrew Steinwald's pieces that he wrote on NFTs, and he says, you guys familiar with Dark Souls?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right? Okay, so he was saying, by the end of the game, right, you've grinded so much, and you have all these weapons, right? Dark Souls is famous for having these crazy weapons. You end up with a very particular set of items that your character wears at the end of the game, and what if you could tokenize that, and maybe as a memory, but maybe also as assets that you can carry over into another Dark Souls game, or even a game completely separate from Dark Souls, right? Another game that comes to mind is Path of Exile, PoE, which is also like a total grinding game, which has a wealth of currencies, many different very hard to find items, where I'm like, it's not just about tokenizing those, but what is interesting to me is also opening up financial markets related to those, right? Because if you're a grinder, right, like what is how do you get paid? Like, how do you get satisfaction apart from the grinding? Shouldn't there be, for all the time you spend on the game, shouldn't there be more compensation than just
like a return on investment?
A return on investment, a return on the time you've invested, right? Like, you can pay it for pleasure, for sure. But I think we're moving towards a new type of
game
life.
mechanic.
Game mechanic, but also it's going to have a very serious effect on life. I think where people start playing games for money as a career. Right?
And it's not even just gaming. We're seeing a lot of projects like decentralized social media platforms that are growing. They're starting to incentivize content creators, decentralized YouTube and decentralized Twitter. They're starting to monetize people's opinions now.
Yeah.
So like a whole new economy is starting to form, not just on in-game assets, but
for sure.
I was just going to say, we totally agree with you. We were, if you follow our podcast, like we keep talking about how a lot of these games, like their main attraction is that you'll be able to make money from them.
Yeah.
And what blockchain allows is the ability to legitimize like the content that you discover in the game, and then you can monetize that sword that you find in World of Warcraft. Exactly. I was surprised, and I was watching this past year's E3, which happens in June or July timeframe, and there wasn't a single company that talked about blockchain. I think except one, but it was like an indie type. But I have a feeling that due to like the success of Decentraland and CryptoVoxels and all these, we're going to start seeing a lot more integration of all these like favorite games with blockchain.
Yeah.
So my question.
For sure.
I have a quick question. How do you in Metalith? How will you be able to track? Let's say a big game like World of Warcraft starts integrating with blockchain or Pokemon, and you start collecting these Pokemon that are really NFT, entities like assets. But you can start using these assets in different games. Like let's say I have a racing car game, and in that racing car game, I can show off the rare sword that I got from World of Warcraft. So is there a way to track like the use of that NFT in separate games, like outside of that game world?
So that depends to what extent you integrate the NFT with the game. So because I was listening to one of your podcasts and you discussed how Matic is used in Decentraland, right? How you basically cannot do a number of things in Decentraland without Matic because it would take too much time.
Right.
And there you already see that the normal interactions that you would want to have with such a virtual asset are already removed from the blockchain simply because the blockchain cannot cope with the speed, right? Now, this may be an Ethereum specific problem or a problem of this generation of blockchains, but I think probably at least for the short and the medium term, most of these normal interactions with assets will be detached from the blockchain.
Sure.
And then, unfortunately, because the blockchain, honestly, by itself is a great, for a data scientist, it's a great source of data. It's almost a dream because the data is always available. There's no way it has been mismeasured or anything. Like all this stuff is codified. But if you're looking at, let's say, how much an NFT moves around in a particular world, that data is not going to be on the blockchain.
And I see.
You have to depend on the company to allow you access to the data via an API, right?
Sure.
And the problem is that that's not very scalable because you're going to have to find agreements with every company to use their API.
Sure.
These APIs change, the companies change their minds, some companies are going to say no. So unfortunately, that stuff is very
It's a lot harder.
Yeah, much harder. So one of the things we're actually discussing with Decentraland is much closer integration with the data they have and the data we have. And so one of the things we're hoping for, which I don't think has really been fleshed out yet, is to at least get a little more insight into traffic, like how many people are going to particular parcels and stuff like this. Potentially, I mean, people teleport to parcels, right? You can enter this command to teleport.
Yeah. Let me ask you a quick question about that. I don't know, is it 100% determined already that teleportation is going to be a thing, or maybe flying within Decentraland? What kind of impact is that going to have on land valuation, do you think?
Well, that's very interesting because it's a good question because originally, so we discussed Zone 5, right? So that central square in Decentraland, which was really hot.
Like the middle, right? Like towards the middle?
The middle, right?
Yeah.
And so that middle is that there's a big plaza. So that's one of these, I think, 9 or 11 areas where Decentraland itself is going to organize big things, big events, and big scenes and stuff like this. And so a lot of people initially bought a lot of land there because they assumed that would be the original spawn location, right?
Yep.
And I think to this day in the beta, which is still private, I think, that is the actual spawn point, right, Mark? That's 0, 0, right? You spawn at 0, 0.
Yep.
Yeah. Right. So that's still there. However, you can teleport, and if like from a simple UX UI perspective, like user experience, I would say you probably want to allow people to spawn at a custom location, right? So when I'm playing Decentraland, I would go into the settings and say, set my spawn location to this and this coordinate, right? Yep. Which I think most people would do because they probably have more interest in a particular area than the rest of Decentraland.
Yeah.
That would mean that once people start doing that, that spawn theory of everyone spawning in the center is going to fall apart. And probably the prices of the parcels along with it. But that's
not good.
Honestly, well, I don't know if that's.
Well, it's not good for me personally.
It's not good for him.
I own one of those central flaws. I went in with the mentality exactly like that. That's what I heard. All the noobs are going to spawn in the middle, right? I was like, I want one of these.
I don't think it will be too bad for you because the center is always going to have like a magical like element to it. Like the center is the center, right? Center of the earth, center of the universe. Like it's there, but this very specific point of like spawning, always spawning at 0, 0 is unlikely to hold. I think, in my personal opinion, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you.
As the world develops and people develop preferences for locations.
Yeah, like the casino gambler, they're not going to want to spawn in 0, 0. They're going to want to spawn right at the casino every time that they want to get into Decentraland.
And so that's what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. And so Metalith, right now you have a general index for all of the Decentraland, I think. But once this data starts coming in from segments of the world, I'm assuming you're going to have maybe like more concentrated indexes for like certain areas, I guess. So they could figure out, which zones are more populated, higher traffic, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So we actually have this already.
Okay.
So if you go on the website, there's this little block of like nine little blocks, one marked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's actually a representation, like a mini map of
I see it.
Right? So
yeah.
If you click on 5, the index will look only at the parcels in zone 5 and show you what's going on in that particular area. So one of the things we actually put in the press release, because we thought it would be an interesting data point that kind of illustrates why these zones are interesting, is, and Mark, correct me on this because I might get it wrong, but I think there was one particular zone that was down 45% in price terms from the launch of Decentraland. So since launch until now, prices there have gone down about 45%. And then there was another zone that was pretty much constant with the launch. So those prices barely changed, right? So that would seem to say, like, the data is pretty limited, honestly, at the moment. So, we have to be a little careful with drawing conclusions and stuff like that.
Sure.
But, if you have one zone that shows that prices are down like 50% and another zone where prices are barely down, clearly you have these, like, again, like these spatial dependencies, spatial interactions where certain areas are just more popular than others. And I actually think that the zone that was down only 1% or so wasn't even the central zone. Like, it wasn't even zone 5. I think it was zone 8, which is at the bottom of the map in the middle.
Sure.
That's been a pretty popular zone. It actually has two very small plazas that you can't really see if you look at it from.
And it's interesting because there aren't many districts around that area, if I remember. The districts are, and you would think like areas closer to districts would have like way more.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So
hype.
So we're making these models, right? And these statistical models, their main purpose is to predict prices, which is a mechanic that we need to build the more advanced indexes. And so one of the variables we have in there is district distance. Right? And so district distance has proven a pretty insignificant variable.
Wow, interesting.
So, it seems like the pricing of most of these parcels is not heavily dependent on general proximity of districts. But that may not be true for every district. Like, we know for a fact that in zone 4, which is where the fashion district is, on the left side of the map in the middle, the average price of parcels is higher than in the rest, like significantly higher than in the rest of the map. And there's a very like small amount of parcels there that can be traded, and it's completely surrounded by big districts. And we have seen there, for example, that those parcels tend to be pretty high worth in terms of prices. So it's, again, like, you have these very local behaviors that we really like to drill down into, but the sales data is somewhat limited. If you look at the general index, we have this like volume bar down below, right? Which pretty much, I think, mirrors what is also on the non-fungibles website, and you can see that trading volumes are way down, right? So back in the early days, I think we would have hundreds of sales per week, which is our minimum time frame. And nowadays it's maybe 50 or less, right? So we're in a bit of a low, I'd say, but at the same time, I think generally 2020, 2021 are shaping up to be decent years for crypto in general, and I think that's also going to have an effect on Nifties. From what I've seen, actually, when crypto markets do well, NFTs don't necessarily move along with them.
True.
But you do have this kind of like flight to safety out of crypto when it's not doing that well. And sometimes that flight goes in the direction of NFTs. It's a very interesting, it's like this echo, right? Like, crypto does well, and then you have slightly later in time, you have this like echo into NFTs. Like, the money seems to move into NFTs.
It's probably because this is a little bit more stable than like cryptocurrencies.
So that's the thing. So that's a very interesting question. Like, how risky are NFTs compared to crypto, right? So you already have these like kind of like stereotypes about cryptocurrency that, it's volatile. It's extremely dangerous to put your money in. But here's the thing about NFTs. Maybe at first sight they seem more stable, but at the same time, these things are a lot more illiquid and harder to track if you're an investor than cryptocurrencies, right? With cryptocurrencies, you get 24/7 markets, order books, lots of volume nowadays, right? With an NFT, there's no order book, right? That's one of the things that we're trying to highlight here. There's no order book. You have to manually find someone that wants to buy your specific NFT, your specific land, right? That takes a lot more time, because if you have 90,000 or even 45,000 lands for sale, it's going to take people quite some time to find your particular parcel and be interested in the particular characteristics of that parcel, right? So if you want to divest your NFT, that's a lot more trouble and stress than divesting your cryptocurrency, where you can just go to an exchange, DEX, X, whatever you want, and just get rid of it, dump it. With NFTs, you don't have that. So there's a lot of room there also to like, build stuff that helps these markets. some of these statistical models that I mentioned that we use for the index also have the potential to help at the very least with market making, where if you have a parcel that you very quickly want to divest and you don't have the time to wait for someone to come along and be like, hey, I'd like to buy this, and you don't want to lose too much money by way underpricing it, then those models that were trying to like compete could analyze the value of that parcel and then make an offer on it, right? So there you have an automated system where you come to let's call it a bot. You come to the bot, you say, I want to get rid of this land. The bot says, okay, like according to my model,
I see where you're going.
It's worth 9,000 mana. I'm offering you 9,000 mana, take it or leave it. If you're in need of cash, that's a great option, right? And the bot gets a parcel that is somewhat underpriced that can be resold later on for the actual market.
Yeah,
right?
According to the analytics, you could get more.
Yeah, so there's a lot of room to improve the general liquidity, the general flexibility of this market.
Yeah.
So that's one of the other things that really excites us, and it's very kind of convenient for us because we have if you need predictive stuff, we already have to build that for the index, so we can easily reuse it for other very useful tools as well. So that's one of the things that we're really excited about.
Yeah, that answers like a whole bucket load of questions that I had, because I was wondering how you guys are planning on making money. At the end of the day, that's everyone's not objective, but
yeah, sure.
It's a big part of life, right? You gotta make a profit somehow.
You're completely right. And I mean, let's be honest. It's a very early time in the NFT, right? So you have to be pretty careful if you're an actual business with the decisions you make. And so we, in the short term, are still just very interested in just establishing tools without putting too much emphasis on monetization. But if you want me to hint at where we're going probably with this is market making, that kind of stuff. Very interesting for us. Taps into one of the, I think, few things that actually make money in crypto in general, which is trading speculation. And the other big one is basically building infrastructure, right? So we're kind of doing both, but we, as a business, have to make up our mind about where we want to go. But definitely, I think trading speculation is a very interesting avenue for us. And then the indexes are, of course, also somewhat dependent on this trading activity picking up. And a very common thing that you do with indexes is that you make them publicly available, but you add a delay of X, for the public API or for the public indexes, and then you offer the up-to-date information at a price.
Interesting. Really?
Okay. That's interesting for us because we're not, if we give you an index that is 1 week delayed, that will probably not have a massive impact on normal people that consume the index, because the week-to-week changes are unlikely to be very significant. But at the same time, if you're building mission-critical systems that require up-to-date information, you will be probably interested in having an up-to-date index available. Right?
Absolutely.
So that's what we're.
So we're particularly interested in this tool because I'm curious, and this is sort of a little bit of feedback, and although I'll admit this is a little bit early, but so we have a couple of creations built and running on Decentraland, and what I'm curious about is, since you guys are tracking the value of a given parcel, and we were just talking about how parcels not necessarily located in the center of Decentraland are going to be worth, the parcels located in the center are not going to be worth as much as other parcels. So will there be a segment in Metalith where you can kind of determine that, hey, this parcel is worth 3 times as much as its neighbors because there's a particular application running on that parcel that generates a passive income for the landowner, or there's another tool running on that land that's actually providing more value than just the land itself?
Yeah, so that actually comes down to a very important question for us, which is the value of a parcel determined solely by its location, and its proximity to roads, its proximity to a district, proximity to a plaza, etc., or has that price, is that price now also starting to be influenced by what is built on the parcel, right?
Right.
So I'd say until now, so we're, I think, 1.5 years approximately, maybe slightly more down the road. I think until now, most of these prices have not been influenced too much by content, simply because the content wasn't there, was in progress of being built, or because the client simply wasn't available for people to browse, right?
Sure.
But we're now getting to a point where, where the content may start factoring into these land sales. And that means that we're also going to have to work on improving our models to take into account more variables, simply, right?
I wonder if there's an easy way for you guys to determine, like, hey, this parcel is actually selling for a lot more because there's this given application running on the land. Like, how would you technically achieve that? Is it through an API that Decentraland offers, or is it through an API of the dev that created that creation?
Yeah, so we haven't looked into it too much yet, and you're right, it's very implementation dependent. It depends a lot on how any interaction basically on a parcel, with a parcel, is tracked, recorded,
sure,
stuff like this. But one of the ways I can imagine that we could use as a heuristic for assessing what the deal is with a certain parcel is if parcels are going to contain items that are also tracked on the blockchain, right? So if you have NFTs that are specifically related to a particular parcel, then you open up a whole new world of things that you can track. For example, you can look at how often NFTs from a particular parcel or NFTs associated with a particular parcel are traded.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can very quickly come up with a ranking of the most popular parcel in terms of how much the items on that parcel move around,
sure,
right?
Sure.
And that's already, I think, at least for a statistical model, it's a very big step forward because it gives you that popularity metric, right?
Sure.
So there are other things as well that are more indirect, but they could still be useful. Very simply, if on the marketplace, right? So the marketplace that we have, the official Decentraland marketplace, without using personally identifiable information,
sure,
you could look at how often people look at a particular parcel.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And that doesn't happen on the blockchain. That's not a blockchain thing. That's a website tracker thing, right? So, which is not as ideal as a blockchain because obviously it's going to have to run on a particular server. It's associated with a particular body of code, etc. But at the same time, that's again a very basic but useful metric to see, how those parcels are doing. So I think a lot of it remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it is going to depend on how exactly in-game items are, what the standard is going to be like for in-game items.
Sure.
And also traffic, like how many people visit a parcel. But I think there will be good opportunities there to both for owners and for businesses like us.
Yeah. I was. Let me make a suggestion, if I may.
Sure.
So just like I said, that we have like a game running in Decentraland, that its purpose is to provide an ROI for the landowner, right? So perhaps it would be beneficial for us if we could use your API or little code that we can embed in our game, so that we can sell our game to other landowners by saying, hey, if you buy our game and deploy it on your land, you can go to metalith.io to verify that once you buy this game, your land goes up, 50% in value. And that way it makes it easier on your guys that you don't have to go and contact all the indie games that are being deployed on Decentraland. Instead, the devs like us, we do our own research and say, how can we provide more value for the landowner? And the way we provide more value is by using Metalith's API, so that when people do buy our creations, they know that there's actual value, tangible, that can be pointed at, on some metric, some graph on Metalith. That has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things we explored when we were doing market research. That was a few months ago. And I think that's really something that's starting to emerge more and more as people deploy more content and formalize the way you deploy and monetize things like what you're doing with MetaZone, right? And I think that's maybe a very interesting emerging opportunity for us, because just like normal business owners in the real world, you need a dashboard to, see how your virtual business is doing,
right?
Metrics, traffic, products being bought, sold, what is popular, what is not popular. None of that exists. None of that has been formalized. There's no protocol for it, right? And that's kind of a huge gap in the market that that would be interesting for us to look at, for sure.
Yeah, because to me, like if I were your guys, it would be difficult to go out and try to figure out like what games that are being deployed in Decentraland that are causing like parcels to be sold at 2 or 3x their actual value. Because if you're just tracking the prices and you're saying like this particular section of Decentraland is actually being sold for higher prices than this other section, but then you have this one outlier that's being sold for 5 times as much, and it's like, well, what's going on in that parcel? For you guys, for right now, you guys don't know what's going on unless you actually physically spawn in that parcel and say, hey, there's this game here that's making this landowner a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so from a developer standpoint, we need to figure out ways to create value just on our own with the tools that we have. And so if we can get that tool from Metalith, and Metalith can provide some graph and say, look, getting these games gets your parcel 2 or 3x return on investment just by selling the parcel with the game on it. That's very valuable for us, and gives us an incentive to use your technology on our stuff.
Yeah, so so one of the things we also had in the press release was just an invitation for anyone that is interested in this kind of stuff, and actually kind of making there's a wealth of data out there, right?
Yeah,
so all this stuff that's happening on Decentraland, I feel like it's still very much underused. There's a lot more that we can get out of it that is not currently being done. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do here. And the applications are, virtually unlimited, right?
Sure,
and so one very straightforward application is exactly what you just mentioned. So providing this insight to these virtual businesses in Decentraland on what their parcel is doing, what other parcels are doing, how they can, maximize.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the way that we look at it is like Decentraland has this very unique sort of offering for players, right? It doesn't have like the gameplay value that a first-person shooter might have, right? It's not a collective world like World of Warcraft is, but instead it's more of like a world where it's like a platform where developers can build anything that they want. And what we're saying is, the most successful parcels are going to be the parcels that deploy things that make a return on investment for the landowners, because these lands, they're not free, right? So there's got to be ways for landowners to recover their money, and then plus potentially make a profit, not just by selling the land itself. And so it's
just how the real world works, essentially.
Exactly. It's just
if you go outside, you step outside your door and you go to any commercial area.
Exactly.
Everyone's trying to take your money somehow, one way or another. Nobody's giving out free pizzas. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's just like the movie Ready Player One. You walk outside, there's ads all over the place. Like you're saying, everybody's trying to take your money. And I think, as you know, it sounds ugly saying that, right? That's not the world that I would hope to be in. It's not the game world that I want to create.
Unless Decentraland passed out like a UBI program.
There you go.
That's the only way we can. If it could be a free market, things are going to cost. You know what I mean?
And so ultimately, we're saying I think the most valuable things that are going to be successful in Decentraland are things that provide that ROI. And so once we can, like tools like you guys, like Metalith, once we can leverage those tools, we can actually support like the whole ecosystem by creating and leveraging each other's APIs. So that's why I really like what you guys are doing.
I guess leading into that, have you guys personally, heard any pushback or anything or from Decentraland themselves?
No, we're actually in close touch with Decentraland, and I think there may be a number of future projects that we're going to come up with together. So I think Decentraland, their interest is in building a system that can basically survive itself over the coming years, right? Like the idea has always been to be completely decentralized, They recently tabled a bunch of new votes on the Agora, which is, where everyone's voting.
Yep.
Which are about, giving more voting power to people, giving voting power to landowners, not just people who have mana, but also land. And just generally setting up a, self-governing world that doesn't require any central bodies to, make it work.
Sure.
And so one of the things they're very interested in is also, again, like this data aspect. They, in the ideal future, won't be running it themselves because it's an obvious point of centralization, right? And so they're trying to encourage and spread out the efforts in this space. And their response has been very supportive and enthusiastic to what we've done.
Excellent.
Very nice.
So yeah, we're going to be working closely with them going forward. I think it's going to be very good.
So how do you know when to add another asset to Metalith, like any other NFT besides the land token?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So one of the things we've been kind of trying to do is formulate an approach to, what NFTs do we include and which ones don't we include. And, overall, the most important, not the most important, but one of the things that I would really like to have is like not just a metric for how well land is doing, not just a metric for how well CryptoKitties are doing, not just a metric for how Gods and Chain are doing, but how is the NFT industry doing overall, right? And there we're talking about an index on top of all these project indexes, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's a pretty big plan, obviously. It's not going to happen very soon, but it does kind of imply that we would like to cover the most essential projects out there, right? And then summarize again that performance into one general metric, so people have somewhere to go to, maybe not investors or consumers, but researchers at the very least, a place where they can go and say, okay, so how have NFTs fared overall? Like how are you going to do that right now? How can you summarize the performance of NFTs? You can't, right?
Yeah, you can't.
It's just like, it's not a vicious circle, but the fact that everything is so unique makes it incredibly hard to keep track of the thing overall, right? Because the whole point is everything's unique. Everything has its own story, its own aspects. You can't summarize it. The whole, right? Like summarization is like discouraged by the uniqueness. And so it requires a decent amount of work to find and develop and apply the methods to do that. So one of those things that we really would like to do is to have that ultimate index, and the question is, how do we go about this? Like, do we focus only on Decentra in the short term, which is or a home project kind of, right? Do we start including these other virtual worlds soon, like a vertical kind of expansion in the same category, or do we do this horizontal expansion where we build the index for various projects that are maybe completely unrelated, and see what the uptake is on each of them, right? The advantage also on the horizontal approach is that you get a much better picture overall, even if we don't have that main index. If we build like an index for, let's say, Gods and Chain, CryptoKitties, and Tentran, you have a pretty good view of how each of these are doing, right? Trading card game, breeding game, kind of, and then the virtual world. I think that's a pretty good summary of what there is out there in the space.
Sure.
And we're still very much formulating how we want to do that. Part of it is probably demand, like what do people want to see. Part of it is how easy we can extend our current technical stack to these other projects, because again, every project requires a decent amount of customization. Right? So you need to identify patterns that you can reapply every time to different projects. So I don't have a clear-cut answer to it. It's very much a work in progress, but we're very open to, that's one of the things that why we're out there on Twitter and Discord and the PR, the press release, etc. is we want people's feedback. We kind of need people's feedback. Right? We need to we need that market pulse to see where people need it.
Yeah, the one thing that I'm starting to realize now is that there's probably a whole bunch of NFTs that we've all collectively never heard of, right? And they could be the next big NFT thing, right? And so do you see yourself as a place where, let's say, like Ayman and I create an NFT, that we would go to Metalith and like register our NFT game, and or is this something that you guys have to basically discover and implement yourselves, that we exist?
I definitely don't think at this point that we want to cover the market 100%, right?
Okay.
I think if you look at it from let's say the traditional index approach is even the S&P, right, is 500 companies max, right?
Sure.
At some point, the marginal contribution of adding another project is just not
worth it.
Less than 1%, right?
Sure.
It's just not worth it, right? So I think that's very much a similar approach with this. But the interesting thing is, if you want to get to that point where you can say adding this other project is going to contribute less than 1%, it kind of means that we need an idea of the market cap of each project. But guess what? That's another thing that we're kind of missing right now. How much money is, how much active money is in a project across all these entities?
That's not being tracked. Like, there's no number, like a total sales, nothing that's disclosed.
What's the market cap of CryptoKitties? Like,
nobody knows.
Right. So you need to know. So what we want to know is how much money is in all the NFTs issued by or all the actively traded NFTs issued by a particular project, right? Yeah. But it's very hard to do because again, every asset is unique. So every asset has its own value. So you're going to have to calculate this. If you want to do properly, you're going to have to calculate it for every single NFT, right? And then add it together and say, okay, this is the estimated value, right?
True.
So until now, it's been really hard. Again, this is a thing that we can use or models for because we have to predict prices anyway to build the index. We can reapply those models to actually just run a script, kind of calculate it for every single parcel or every single tradable parcel in Decentraland, add those numbers together and say, okay, this is the actual market cap, right? So I think OpenSea has an approximation for market cap, but I think it's based on the last traded
transaction volume, probably.
I think there were a bunch of other assumptions made as well, which I think are very fair assumptions for their purposes. But I think there's a lot that can be improved there, and so that's definitely something we want to go after as well. Literally having a ranking of NFT projects in terms of market cap, right? Yeah. So it's not going to be a traditional definition of market cap. We're definitely going to have to get creative. But it's a metric that's needed. It's a metric that will exist in the future, regardless of whether Metallist does it or not. So, why don't we just get on it right away? And then that market cap metric by itself is going to open up a lot of new things that you can do, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things, like, I think the general point is just that it's so early on in these NFT markets. They're so primitive in a way. And there's so much that can be done that hasn't been built yet, right? And that's really one of the reasons why Metallist exists, because there's this massive opportunity out there to just, make these markets better. And that's what we're,
I imagine what's going on right now is very similar to what happened probably like in 2010, 2011 in the Bitcoin cryptocurrency space,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's just a matter of the market evolving and maturing itself, and you guys are definitely a big integral part of that, I think.
Yeah, so that's actually a thing that Mark and I did recently. So we took the timeline, right, for how crypto developed between, let's say, 2011, 2019, right?
Yeah.
And then we kind of like tried to reapply that timeline to NFTs. So NFTs, before Ethereum, they already existed on Counterparty, right? But let's take Ethereum as a starting point. That was 2017, right?
Right.
So 2 years, 2017 to 2019, if you apply that to the original crypto development, that means going from 2011 to 2013, not that much happened in those 2 years, right? You had your bull market and your bear market and some early moves and shakers, right? But the market, I don't think, was all that different. It was probably a little busier, and it was busier in terms of volume for sure versus 2011, but it was still a very extremely young market, right? So if you apply that timeline to NFTs, we honestly, personally, we don't think we're going to get to the big markets that we've kind of seen in crypto since 2015, 2016 before 2022, 2023 for NFTs, right? Yeah. So this is a long runway that we have. There's a long way to go. Like, there's nothing that says that the timeline for NFTs is the same length, as crypto, but I think it's probably a pretty good approximation if you want to get a general idea.
Mm-hmm.
So we're at the doorstep of 220. Like, it's the early days.
Does MetaVentures, do they allow you like the flexibility to choose like where you want to take the company, or are they a little bit more hands-on?
No, actually, they've been extremely supportive, and they have given us a lot of room to operate for ourselves. So
okay, good.
It's more like we seek them out because they're very solid, and they have a lot of people with a lot of experience across different industries, and so they have been a fantastic resource for us to build and to plan and to strategize.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I was thinking with if you extrapolate like Decentraland and you give it enough time, I feel like there's going to be a lot less parcel selling and a lot more content creation and an economy on top of the parcels, right? And so I think the content on top of Decentraland is going to really dictate the value on a given parcel. But that's going to take a lot of time and a bunch of developers, in the game. So we recognize there's a huge opportunity, and that's why we like what you guys are doing and how we're contributing with like the little games that we're creating in Decentraland, is that we're all participating in this like brand new market that nobody really knows like what's going to happen.
It's the frontier, right?
This is the edge.
Yeah,
it's the very edge. And if you think about it, right, in terms of what you mentioned about the content of these parcels. So right now, people are deploying like ready-made assets that are not NFTs themselves to this land, right? But in the longer term, I think you already kind of see this with the wearables that they've been putting out in the sense of like the Halloween masks and stuff like this, right? We can start tracking that, and I think that over time you're also going to see tokenized furniture, right? Mm-hmm. Which is kind of like just an asset you buy. You can. Let's just imagine like a supermarket in the virtual world where you go and you literally buy this NFT and then you teleport it to your parcel, right? So it kind of like you start mixing all these different interfaces you have right now into one, which, again, brings us very close to what you mentioned, for example, Ready Player One is in the end a huge mix of interfaces, right? So right now we have on the computer, we have the builder, then, and Decentraland. But at some point, I think the ultimate execution of all of that activity would happen in one portal, on one platform, right?
Yes.
So once you have that tokenized furniture, that also enables, that's also stuff we can track again on the blockchain, right? So again, tracking those daily interactions is hard, but at the very least, you can track where the furniture is going, what furniture is popular, on what coordinates, like, is there a particular area in the Decentraland where the particular type of furniture is more popular than in other places? That's all super interesting information for people that produce the furniture, for people making content like you guys, like what furniture, maybe there's a type of furniture that is more popular than other furniture that's going to bring more people to your parcel, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, everything that comes along. One of the things that is just really exciting is that, and it sounds like a platitude, like it sounds like a basic thing, but the act of building a world is something so huge, right? So vast that it's very hard to comprehend what you're getting yourself into when you first start, right? Like
absolutely.
At every turn, at every corner, at every decision, at every insight, at everything you see, there's an entire new spectrum of possibilities that opens up, and this is kind of like infinite because it's virtual. You can just do anything you want, right? And it's so for me, and I think for most of us, it's like a never-ending stimulus, right? That your brain is like continuously stimulated, and just all these rabbit holes that you can go down to.
The analogy that we use a lot is like each parcel is like it's like a real estate. Let's say, think of your phone, like your iPhone, for example, and there's 18 apps on there. We think each parcel is going to be like its own place where apps are running within that parcel. And so we think in the future there's going to be like, hey, this game has a much better ROI than the current game that I've deployed on my land. I'm just going to delete my current app, download that new app, and therefore I'm getting that new ROI. And so I think it's going to be that dynamic of a world.
That's what I'm saying. Like, so one of the things that just makes it in a way so much better than the real world is if you would have like a real house, right?
Yeah.
And the next day you decide like you want to do something completely different. That's
you could do that.
You can't do
well, you can't do that in the real world. Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge pain, and the strength, or I don't know, the beauty or whatever you want to call it of this digital stuff is that the next day it's gone, and the next day there's something completely different. You know,
that's right.
There's such the speed is just insane. You know, it's similar to how the internet kind of revolutionized. I think just so many things. E-commerce. Yeah,
like you can't with e-commerce, you can sell pretty much anything you can think of on the internet. Yeah. But if you have a physical store, you can only sell what fits in the store.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's just like exponential improvement, and I think when we talk about world building, we're pretty much at the same precipice, right? At the same point where it's just it's going to explode, and we don't know exactly when it's going to explode. Maybe, VR is still not ready to take off.
Right.
But I think I'm just really happy to be here at this, point in time, honestly, because like we said, we're at the edge.
Dude, 100%. I say that all the time.
Yeah, it's crazy that you get an opportunity to get on something with this much potential at the ground level.
Yes.
It's pretty insane.
It's like we missed the boat, like during the internet when it was being created. Like we were all too young to like participate in that world, but we got a new world, and obviously we're all taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been about an hour. I don't want to take any more of your time. I really, really appreciate you guys. It's been an extremely fun interview.
Yeah, man. Fascinating.
Thank you very much.
I'm glad we all share the same passion.
Yeah, absolutely.
That like makes me, what's the word? Hopeful. Give me a little hopium that
exactly
the ecosystem is going to grow. That you got smart people like you guys working on things.
Absolutely.
It's at certain moments when you look at the Discord, sometimes it appears like a ghost town, but but there's actually hard work being done behind the scenes that we can't really see, right?
Absolutely.
And that's good to know.
So
thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We hope to have you guys back on, and next time we're just going to have Mark on so we can do a little bit more talking. And so we really appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you very much. It was great. I look forward to being back. I think we're going to have a decent amount of news soon. So
yeah, absolutely. Whenever you have new stuff, go ahead.
Actually, I would personally like to know about how you guys think about what kind of content do you guys think can make money on the Decentraland?
Oh yeah,
because
sure.
For me, I'm a game developer, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure whether deploying a game on iOS would be more profitable, or building a game on the Decentraland would make me more money, long term. Because in the Decentraland, the space are kind of limited, so you can
100%.
serve 2,000 or 3,000 people at a time. So for a game on iOS, maybe even 100,000 people playing on the same game.
Sure.
And these 100,000 people are willing to pay $0.99, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. So that is something that I keep asking myself. And if building a game is not profitable on the Decentraland, then is building a rewarding social experience gonna be the main source of income for all the builders on this virtual world? So that is, I think, let's leave this in another.
No,
that's actually like a critical question that you're thinking, you're pondering.
It is absolutely critical.
That's what we're always talking about.
We're always
trying to figure that out.
And let me answer that, Mark. I think the way that we look at it is, you're absolutely right. Why would you create a game for Decentraland which it doesn't have the exposure, it doesn't have the notoriety that you would create with an iPhone application? And I think it comes down to this: if you give an engineer these limitations, this, build me a house that's, a 10 by 10 that doesn't, you have a height limit and all this stuff. It's okay, you build me a house, and that engineer will build you that house with those limitations. So then you look at Decentraland, and it has all these built-in limitations, right? Your parcel is only 16 by 16 meters. It can go up to 20 meters in height or whatever it is. and let's see what you can create with these limitations. And I'm going to add one more limitation. It says, all right, whatever you create, it has to make money. And so what we did is we created a game called The Block Runner, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a game where every time you jump these blocks, the leader in this block jumping game ends up winning mana. And so we incentivize people to come back to play this game so that they're the daily leader in this game, so that they are earning mana by returning and playing this game. Now, this is not a first-person shooter. It's not a physics game that you can find on the iOS.
Yeah.
But it fits within the limitations of Decentraland and with our ability to develop it as well. So that's why we built it, and that's why we think ROI games like this one has a huge potential in Decentraland, because I think that's the only way that we can sustain an economy. Because otherwise, just selling parcels and selling like just things that you can't interact in Decentraland. Like, it has very limited replayability, and that's what we're trying to bring into this space, is like that replayability factor, the ROI factor, and that's kind of why we did what we did.
Yeah. And it's sort of like, I guess you have two options. Yeah, you can either create like a really addictive game with like an awesome game experience, but like you said, it's kind of limited because the land costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
In these situations, so there's so much you have to go vertical in this world. Or the second option is like what Will just said: you have to incentivize people to come back, log in every single day, and either water some type of element within the game that gives them an end game reward.
That's right.
And that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah.
Right now, potentially.
Actually, speaking of rewards, there's this like concept I've had in mind for quite a while, which is very, very simple. That I think again, like, is very close to what you were saying about incentivization. Airdrop. Right? I think people love airdrops because it's free money, right?
Yeah, so, passive income is like the best word ever.
So you can actually gamify that pretty easily. So this vision I have in mind, right? It's a fountain. Let's say a Binance fountain, and it literally just like it has like these coins coming out of it.
Oh yeah.
When you catch like these coins, when you catch them, you get an actual it's an actual airdrop. Like there's an extra transfer to your account, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the exchange would get out of it, but people would love it because all you have to do is like it's stand there and like jump up and down after the coins, and you get actual like stuff.
It's like the game in Call of Duty. Like whenever you get like 5 kills in a row, there's like an airdrop that comes down, and you have to go after it.
Yeah. Oh, a care package.
A care package.
Yeah.
So that's great. So because I think there is one exchange that has parcels in the center. I don't know if it was Bitrex or another one. For
Who will be?
Was it
Wooby.
I remember Spanish exchange.
Okay, I thought Bitrex was there too. That's a very easy way for them to engage or to attract like people to their parcels, right? I don't know what their actual how they would, if they would have like an actual exchange like a physical one on there, but this like simple gamification of airdrops could attract like a decent amount of traffic.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Exclusive to Decentraland or some other world. I don't know. Like, there's so much that you can do.
Yeah,
it's really you really got to dig deep into that creative box to figure out this. It's not an easy problem, but it's super rewarding. Like you said, if you like to be creative, like, come on.
Yeah,
this is the place to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully, Mark, that answers your question.
Or yeah.
Okay, good. So again, thank you. Let's stay in touch. We want to have you guys back on because this, this stuff is very interesting, and I know everything is like constantly changing. So
yeah,
we'd love to have you back on, and thank you for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you for having us. Looking forward to it.
All right, man. And good luck on everything in the future, you guys. For sure.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
All right. Hello, I'm back.
All right. So I just sent them a message thanking Joël and Mark for joining us. So I joined their Discord. There's some good stuff going on there, and
this is their Discord.
Yeah, this is their Discord.
Badass.
Yeah. So what do you think, man?
Yeah, man. These guys are they're onto something for sure. Oh, they're reiterating what we already kind of know in a way. Like, there's so much that needs to be done.
Yes.
In order to make like this Decentraland ecosystem like viable.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And everyone knows that. I mean, but do they know exactly? Like, can they piece the puzzles piece the puzzles together correctly? You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So
I think he nailed it by when we got into that discussion about how like the whole NFT space is literally like early crypto.
Yeah.
Like back then, Mt. Gox was like the godsend.
Yeah.
It's like finally.
Yeah, because Mt. Gox was the only way you can liquidate your crypto.
Exactly. Before that, it was like, hey, bro, like
do you
how did you do
you
it?
want these bitcoins? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So, what's a bitcoin?
Exactly. Well, the people they were just like mostly miners, right, at the time before Mt. Gox.
It's true.
Because there was like no way to speculate on the thing, I guess,
Yeah.
and just like start trading. So that was
because
like
you
a
couldn't pay
breakthrough.
your bills with Bitcoin. So then
All you
how
could
would
do
they?
is like buy pizzas and waste, potentially millions of dollars, which is what some people did.
Well, the only way you can buy pizza is if somebody wanted the Bitcoin and then bought pizza for you.
Oh, is that how it went down?
Yeah.
Like the guy who spent like 15,000 Bitcoins or something like that?
Yeah, it was a post on BitcoinTalk.org. It says, "Hey, can anybody buy me some pizza? I will give you 10,000
Holy
Bitcoin."
Shit. That's crazy.
And somebody took the offer.
Yeah. I wonder if he held on to that. The buyer, obviously not the seller. But that's my point. Like, that was their big breakthrough moment for cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Right now, the NFT market is like looking. I mean, we got OpenSea, so there's a place to trade it. But there's, whenever you're getting into investing in cryptocurrencies, you got multiple tools. Most people have like 20 browsers open at the same time when they're trying to evaluate these things, right? Because there's so many tools these days. But for NFTs, it's probably like right now it's like OpenSea, and that's about it.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? So
and that's very limited information too. It's like, yeah, you can sell a God's Unchained card for $120,000, but that doesn't really tell you how well God's Unchained is doing.
True.
Right? That could be just some fanboy who happened to have $120,000 to like burn.
Yeah.
And
or somebody
that's
who like fat fingered it. Like,
Yeah.
put in the wrong like.
Yeah, it was like too many zeros.
It's like shit.
It's like I wanted to buy that for $12.
Exactly. You don't really know.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this is important stuff, man. Like, he laid it out pretty good. Very good. I can see why he got seed investment. If I was an investor and he told me all this, I'm like, man.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So this part was cool. I didn't realize that I didn't really like notice this, but these zones this is the entire map of Decentraland and these zones.
Yeah, it makes sense now that we talked about it.
Yeah.
He should probably add like its own like tab. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so too.
It should be like its own section.
Yeah.
That way it's a little more intuitive. Like,
so we're in the center, right? Our parcels are in the center.
Yeah, I think so. One is like next to Crypto. What's it called? Crypto Valley. One is like right next to Crypto Valley.
Crypto Valley.
And the other one's literally like Main Street.
Yeah.
So I think they're both in 5.
And I noticed like the 3-month performance is plus 46%.
Yeah, but then look at the 1 month. What the fuck happened, dude?
Yeah, I don't know.
That is one hell of a swing. Holy shit.
It is. So total marketplace at launch is at negative 60%. So it's definitely this tool is so needed.
So basically, I pretty much like bought the top of this shit because I bought like a year ago. Basically,
Was it? No, you bought like
like
June, July. Say let's go back.
Okay, like 6 months ago then.
Yeah,
it was like June,
or actually March, April. It was probably April.
Because we started the podcast in March. It's like
May. It's like May.
Oh, May or June. Let's just call it June.
Yeah, because we were in the competition, right? And I think it was like in June or July.
Nah, it was like in September or something like that.
Damn, I don't remember now.
Yeah, fuck it. Whatever. The point is, I've lost quite a bit of of equity in my land, but it's all right. I'm holding out.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think if you extrapolate, I think Decentraland is going to really be about the content on the land, not necessarily where the land is located. Well,
because like what he pointed out, as of up to right now, everyone has been speculating these central plaza locations are going to be the high value, just out of speculation, because historically things in like downtown are higher valued, right? So then,
right.
But he's saying, and I kind of agree with him. I don't think once the world matures and like people stop spawning in the middle and everyone knows where they need to go, things like DCL plazas is like mainstream and they could look up things.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, I want to go shopping. I heard there's this cool store like in this thing called Decentraland. I can go buy my Gucci, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So they're gonna go straight to DCL Plazas.
Yeah, shout out to Rio. He's the one who connected us to the Medalist guys.
Yeah, man, Rio's our boy for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah. See, I could see like some, at the beginning there's gonna be a ton of noobs, so they're gonna want to spawn in the middle and explore. I get that.
Yeah.
I'll probably do the same thing myself, but that's only gonna last like a couple, maybe a few days, maybe a week at most.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, I've seen everything. Now I want to go like find specific things to do.
Yeah, for sure.
And like we need like what's that called? Like an itinerary? I don't fucking know. Like a yellow pages essentially.
Yeah, a breakdown of like activities.
Yeah, that's like sorted, maybe like based on.
And in our opinion, again, it's like I want to do the activities that have some kind of ROI.
Well, not for the user. The user just cares about like what's fun. Or can I make some cool NFT purchases at this location? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so they're going to need to find that.
But when you buy an NFT, like what's the purpose of buying an NFT?
Just to own it. It's like buying a rare Pokemon card, I have a friend who's literally collecting all 150 Pokemons.
Like the original?
The originals, the OG ones. It's like today, so they're expensive.
Like the first edition ones? Because those are...
Yeah.
Damn.
Like, and he's got like 147 of them. Like, I think he has like the most expensive ones left. He probably has to like,
oh shit,
liquidate his 401k to get those motherfuckers or something. But once he gets them, he just wants to put them on the wall like a big poster.
Yeah.
Same concept, dude. People are buying these NFTs and they're just gonna want to flex on people, just to show off. Like, look what I got.
Yeah.
So it's as simple as that, man.
Oh, look at that, Gothic Church. So we're looking at DCLplazas.com.
Yeah,
and we're looking to see like all the new stuff that's been added.
There's a lot more new stuff.
This is how I think MetaList should work, where it's user generated input, and
meaning like which one's the list or what?
Yeah, like
which NFTs are important.
Because I see what Joël is saying is that they want to be more like the S&P 500, where it's like the top 500 NFT.
Well, it's like relevant. If an investor is trying to buy, I guess like an index for, some people are a little too, they don't want to invest in like an individual company because it's a little too risky for them.
Yeah.
They want to maybe invest on like a sector as a whole. So
sure.
You really got to like work your ass off to kind of like, represent that sector. Like if you want to invest in precious metals, I think there's like indexes that have like the best mining companies and stuff like that in them, and actual gold itself within the index, and then they just invest in that like an ETF.
Right.
So, but that's what I like. If they create these indexes, and then people start selling like ETFs and stuff based on these indexes, do they get a cut of that? I should have asked him that. Like, does he anticipate if that? Because I have no idea how indexes make money, but he laid out like a pretty brilliant idea.
Yeah,
how he himself can
he could have
capitalize on this information.
He could have like a fund dedicated to purchasing land to actually provide the liquidity.
Yeah, like
in the market.
Like someone like me, I've always been like, dude, what if one day I need to someone? I don't think I ever will, but it's like I know it's gonna take a few months probably.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, fuck, dude, that sucks. I'm like locked in, but which is good. I'm happy right now, a little bit sweaty. But in the future, I hope this thing really takes off so I don't ever regret it, but I don't think I will.
Right.
But in case I did, and I know a lot of people probably are, they're like, I want out. How do you, now it's
how do
tough,
you do
dude.
that? Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess in his scenario, it's like they take whatever profit. It's kind of like those guys that have those "We'll buy junk houses" signs like all over the place.
Yeah.
So he's got like assets on his books, I guess property, and then they have to do the hard, liquidation work, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have all the data and the metrics. And the other thing that's a really good monetization strategy is delaying like the data by, a couple of weeks. And then
I didn't even think about that. That's kind of crazy.
I didn't think about that either.
So they charge like, like a trading firm or something, like a premium for them to have access to that data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, data's super valuable, man.
Yeah, it is. That's how you run a business is the data.
Everyone keeps saying data is the new oil.
Dude.
It really is.
Andrew Yang, man.
Was that Andrew Yang?
That's Andrew Yang.
Motherfucking math hat boys. Andrew Yang's never wrong, except for...
He's never wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he's wrong on some things, but
yeah,
he's more right.
Not on the data.
Yeah,
but yeah, man. No, this is good stuff. And like MetaLith, they're definitely ahead of the game, especially now that they have like this infrastructure they can build on.
Yeah.
Like people are gonna be using this a whole lot.
Fuck yeah, dude. Like I said, they're tools, man. Tools are invaluable. It's just like how does CoinMarketCap make money?
Yeah,
but that's a tool everybody uses, right?
Yeah,
and all it literally does is just.
That's true. I'm sure they offer a bunch of APIs, and like if you build some kind of app,
I wonder if you have to pay money to get listed on there.
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay, either way, this was good shit. We needed to talk about Decentraland. It's been a while since we actually got deep into DCO. Right now they're holding another contest.
Oh yeah, the contest is ending tonight at 11 p.m. Central.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's ending.
Yeah, and our boy Maddie's one of the judges for sure. So we're gonna let him do his thing. If anyone's got clout in this space, it's him.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, dude. Everybody knows Maddie, dude.
Yeah, for real.
It's like, and then we met Maddie.
Yeah.
Like everything takes off from there.
Yeah, if you this is the first time you're listening, yeah, we got into Decentraland because we interviewed Maddie, and this is before we were actually doing videos.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh yeah.
And
yeah. I think he was our first attempt, but it turned out terrible.
Yeah.
I think your computer ran out of hard drive space halfway through or something. So we never got a chance to upload the video we got.
That's right. We
didn't even have a hot and spicy camera either, dude. We had
we didn't. We had this potato cam.
But regardless, it was still a good interview.
Yeah.
He's the one that got us all hyped, and he literally
painted the picture for us because there was nothing you can do. There's nothing to look at in Decentraland.
At the moment, we were just interested because it sounded cool.
Yeah.
And then we did that interview, and then that's got Oscar, our developer, interested too.
That's right.
He watched it, and he's like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
The light went off in his head too, and he's like, "I'm in."
Yeah.
You didn't even have to ask.
We didn't ask him. Yeah, his background too is he started in video games. He built games in the Android platform.
Yeah.
And then he saw this. I was like, dude, I'm so in.
I came over here one day and he's playing the block runner. I'm like, what's that, dude? He's like, I made it. I'm like, what? It's in Decentraland. What the fuck? Yeah. This guy's crazy. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. And again, it's we really do believe that it's the ROI that's going to get people to come back. I would like to be wrong on that. I want to see other activities that lend to that replayability that has no ROI. It's just fun to play. But that's yet to be seen, for the most part.
Yeah, I can imagine things like these churches, these religious structures that are going up. They're gonna if they successfully somehow garner an audience and people are logging in every week for different messages. There's no ROI unless they accept donations, but
which they will.
That traffic is still valuable to everything surrounding it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, think about it. If you're a church, you can accept donations from everybody around the planet.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Yeah, but who knows? But regardless of the money, it's going to bring a lot of people in, and that has a cascading effect throughout the whole world. Yeah. And that's the beauty of it, So we'll see what happens.
So yeah, man, I like DCL. God, we should ask them who we should interview next, because I'm sure these guys are connected to other people that are interesting.
We should
folks.
reach out to the motherfucking the head honchos, dude. The godfathers of DCL.
Oh, DCL? Yeah, we should do that.
We should.
Yeah.
Well, why not?
Yeah. We can get Ari on here, or
somebody.
Maybe Toonpunk.
That's what's up. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's it. I do want these guys back on, because there's so much more to talk about. I mean, we focus on Metalith just because it's the most interesting thing at the moment. And but man, there's I want to get their opinions on everything that's going on in the crypto space.
Yeah, and this interests us personally because this is a third party thing.
Yeah,
being built on top of the ecosystem.
Yeah, for
which
sure.
Which is that's why I asked them have you seen any pushback from DCL, because we don't know if they're real receptive to the ideas like this. How decentralized do they want to get? Do they want third party contributions, or do they want to kind of control and dominate the narrative of the ecosystem? What do they want? I was curious, because if anyone's gonna have mass data of what's going on in Decentraland, it's gonna be them.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're hey guys, I like what you're doing, but
we're gonna
do this too. So it's have fun while you can. It's once we come out with our version, you're out. I don't know, but apparently they're super supportive, so that's good news.
Yeah. As it should be. I mean, Decentraland can't build everything.
Yeah, they can't.
Nor should they.
Yeah, they shouldn't.
And if you're going to be building a world, let that world, populate itself with the tools that the world needs when it needs it.
And ultimately, this isn't an exclusive Decentraland product. They're going to incorporate NFTs and other metaverses. So
yeah,
yeah,
it was interesting that they chose Decentraland.
I mean, it's like the number 2 DApp in the world or something right now, as far as like activity.
Yeah, I guess I think it's number 1 is shocking.
Right. Number 1 is something else.
Yeah,
I don't know. There's a listing out there somewhere that lists like all the DApps. And it changes a lot, but DCL is always like top 10.
Yeah, I saw another article where Mana is like one of the preferred cryptocurrencies right next to like Ethereum.
What?
Mana?
In what aspect?
In like value, in terms of like, if you hold $150 worth of Mana, like that's like it's like holding, 1 ETH. So it has the same integrity, right? It has like the same usefulness.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, because there's a application for it.
There's
it's like a legitimate currency at this point.
An emerging economy.
Yeah, you can't do anything in Decentraland without it.
Yeah, that's right.
There's not a lot of DApp or currencies that actually have any use right now.
Yeah,
they're just like sitting on the sidelines, like waiting for Amazon to be like, "All right, boys, you could buy and sell our goods now with your cryptocurrency."
Yeah,
which is probably not going to happen for a lot of those projects.
Yeah, and another thing is like Decentraland needs to focus on is like getting more developers, like actual devs that have that are creative. Like try to build things that.
Well, they're doing that with these creator contests and stuff.
Yeah, but for I mean, you can build games, but like if it's a game where people play once and like that's it.
Yeah.
It's hard.
No, Mark brought up that was the last question he asked, and that was like a serious game changing question, man.
Exactly, that's a legitimate question.
And I'm glad he asked it, and he even showed like him. He's like, I'm a game developer, but it's like I have these 2 options.
Yeah,
right?
I have access to potentially millions of downloads.
An app store, like billions of people who are looking at my creations.
Yeah.
Or do I like take this huge risk and gamble?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, okay, yeah, there's not a whole lot of people in Decentraland at the moment, but we're all betting that there will be, right?
Yeah.
So that's the number one thing. We're betting that there will be. The second thing is with Decentraland, like you have new capabilities that are not possible in other video games, right? The NFTs.
Yeah, that's it.
ROIs.
It boils down to that. Like, do you believe in that aspect of gamer ownership?
Yeah.
Of their time investment is actually being spent on something.
Yeah. Another thing is like, are the devs being supported with like really good documentation, really good APIs, really good SDKs? Is the surrounding space getting funded, like Metalith and Arty and Vegas City? Is there money being funded into this whole operation, the whole economy thing, different aspects of the economy? That's a check. And so as a developer, you think about all these metrics. It's like, well, I'm going to make a bet, and I'm not going to spend all of my time all day developing for Decentraland when it's like still this young. Yeah. So what can I build? What's an MVP that I can build, I can deploy, so I can test out my thoughts on like how people are going to take advantage of Decentraland.
For sure.
My assumptions, so to speak. And so then we came up with these games, and we feel like those games are going to be, extremely valuable.
Yeah.
But once more hands get on it, we're going to test that assumption. We might be wrong too, People might not give a damn about ROIs in Decentraland.
No.
And they care about kitties and like.
Dude, like I said, originally my idea is I just want to build a house and just like chill.
Yeah.
I didn't give a fuck about money. I just wanted a cool chill spot.
I think Decentraland is going to be Flex City, dude.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. There'd be people like riding around in their crypto motor cars.
Yeah,
you ever seen those things are baller as fuck, dude.
Yeah,
dude.
They all look like
Ferraris and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet you they can be expensive too if you get like the first ones of those.
Dude, that's going to be sitting in your like garage.
Yeah, this thing, I don't even know if you can drive.
Yeah, you can't. You won't be able to drive, but it'll be sitting there, and like you'll be one of the few to have those in Decentraland, right? So
that's the whole point.
Yeah,
Flex City. Dude, we should start a neighborhood and just call it Flex City.
Oh, dude, hell yeah!
Cool. I like the name of that.
Trademarked. You can't take it.
A store.
You can't take it.
Damn, that's a good name. I like that, Flex City. Anyways.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, like we were saying, there's a contest going on right now. I think, do we have any plans? The next one we have planned up is Andreas, right? That's like in
So that's
2
December
weeks or
30th.
something?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
So then we have time, like next week, to kind of like go over the, the top 10, top 20 creations, like we did last time for the contest, and we'll give our opinion, our honest opinion, like we always do. Yeah, and that's what we do here, man.
Hell yeah,
we're chilling.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner. Make sure you go to metalith.io and check out their application. I will put their Twitter handles on our description, and that's about it.
Yeah, and have a Merry Christmas and stuff.
Yeah,
it's coming up.
It's a couple of weeks away.
Dude, we should Christmas up this bitch for next one.
Christmas, dude.
Put some lights in the... Dude, hell yeah.
What is that, dude?
All right, I got you. I got it. Don't worry about him. I got this. I'll spruce this place up a bit. Special Christmas edition.
Yeah. All right, guys.
All right, we're out.
Peace.